Jacob's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Not because of what was in the sack, but because of what it meant. The woman standing before him, Sarah Brennan, had just whispered 4 words that would haunt him forever. "They took my babies." And as he stared at the contents spilling across his workbench, Jacob understood that some evil doesn't just destroy lives, it collects pieces of them. Inside the burlap sack were 2 small plaster casts of children's hands, perfectly preserved, impossibly small, with names carved into each one. Emma, age 6, Thomas, age 4, and covering both ... was dried blood. But that wasn't the worst part. Wrapped around the casts were child-sized iron shackles, rusted, stained, still locked. Let me take you back 4 hours. Back to when Jacob Thorne's biggest worry was mending a fence line and keeping cattle from wandering into Snake Canyon. That was before the desperate woman arrived at his ranch. The November sun hung low over Jacob's property when he spotted the wagon on the horizon. A lone woman driving a buckboard that looked like it had crossed half the territory without stopping. The horse was lathered in sweat, barely standing. Jacob approached cautiously, hand near his revolver. Out here, 15 miles from town, desperate visitors were often dangerous visitors. The wagon stopped. The woman didn't climb down. Just sat there, staring at nothing with hollow eyes that had seen too much. "Are you Jacob Thorne?" Her voice came out flat, empty. "I am. They said you're a man who doesn't ask questions. A man who acts." She climbed down slowly, like her bones might shatter. "I need that man right now." She pulled a burlap sack from the wagon bed and held it toward him with bandaged hands. "Please," she whispered, "take them off. I can't touch them anymore. Every time I do, I hear my children screaming." Jacob carried the sack to his workbench, the woman following at a distance. He loosened the drawstring and pulled it open. Time stopped. Heavy iron shackles small enough for a child's wrists, rusted not from age, but from use. From being locked on for so long, the metal had corroded with sweat and tears and suffering. Beneath them, 2 plaster hand casts, cracked and stained dark brown. Carved into each base were names and a date. Emma Brennan, age 6, taken April 3, 1882. Thomas Brennan, age 4, taken April 3, 1882. Tangled in the chains was blonde hair. Torn fabric. A small wooden button from a child's shirt. Jacob's vision blurred. He looked up at Sarah. "Your children, where are they?" Sarah unwrapped the bandages on her hands, revealing deep, cruel scars across both palms. 6 months ago, we hired a guide named Carver for our journey to California. 3 days in, his men ambushed us. They beat my husband unconscious, then grabbed my babies and put those shackles on their wrists while they screamed for me. Her voice cracked, but she pushed forward. Carver said if I wanted them back, I'd bring 20 pounds of gold in 2 weeks. But he needed insurance. So he made plaster casts of their hands while they bled. He cut their palms first, then pressed them into the molds. Said it was proof he was serious. She held up her scarred hands. He did the same to me. Said we were connected now. All bleeding together. Sarah's eyes went distant. I didn't have the gold. I couldn't get it. So I went to the sheriff in Salvation Creek and showed him everything. He said there was no proof. Called me a grieving mother who couldn't accept that her children died of disease. Said I'd made these casts myself. That's insane. Carver pays the sheriff. Half the town knows it. Her voice went hollow. So I left. Traveled from town to town looking for someone who would believe me. Someone who would help. She gestured at the sack. 3 days ago, I found these hanging from my wagon in the middle of the night. No note, just my baby's hands wrapped in chains. He's telling me they're still alive, still in shackles. Still his. Jacob's knuckles went white gripping the workbench. Where is he? Old mission ruins, 20 miles east of Salvation Creek, but he rides with 8 men, all killers. And if he suspects someone's coming ... Her voice broke. He'll kill my children. She looked at the plaster hands, tears finally falling. If I go to the law, they won't help. If I go myself, we all die. If I do nothing ... She touched the small casts gently. If I do nothing, they'll spend however long they have left, wondering why their mother abandoned them. Jacob stood silent, staring at those impossibly small hands, preserved in plaster, thinking about children crying in darkness, about a mother facing impossible choices, about what kind of man puts shackles on a 6-year-old. When he finally spoke, his voice was cold as winter stone. I'll need 2 days to gather the right people. Then we ride. Sarah's breath caught. But understand this, Mrs. Brennan. He met her eyes. What I'm about to do isn't rescue. It's not heroism. He lifted the chains. It's reckoning. 2 days later, Jacob Thorne rode toward those mission ruins with 4 men he'd fought beside in darker times. What they found in that cursed place would make strong men weep and hard men pray. Sarah's children, Emma and Thomas, were alive. Barely. Still in shackles. Still bleeding, but alive. What Jacob left behind in those ruins? Well, some say 8 men went into unmarked graves that night. Some say the mission walls still echo with screams that aren't from children. And some say, when they brought those babies home and finally cut those chains away, Jacob Thorne buried the shackles and plaster casts together under a cottonwood tree, a grave for the suffering that had finally ended. Because sometimes justice isn't about the law. Sometimes it's about making sure evil never gets to collect another piece. Sarah Brennan rebuilt her life with her children in a town far from those memories. Jacob Thorne never spoke of what happened at the mission. But folks say on quiet nights, if you ride past those ruins, you can still hear chains rattling in the wind. Not a haunting, a warning. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy stories like this from the darker side of history and the frontier, consider subscribing to the channel. We have a lot more tales to tell. We'll see you next time.